the most dangerous man in South Korea, was dying in a parking garage. A black woman stopped to help him. That mistake would rewrite both their lives forever. The gunshot echoed through the underground parking garage like a cannon blast. She froze mid-step. The sound bounced off concrete pillars, followed by another, closer this time. Tires screeched. A man shouted in Korean. Then came the sound that made her stomach drop, a body hitting the floor. Her instinct screamed at her to run. Instead, she turned. The man lay sprawled beside a black luxury sedan, blood spreading beneath him in a dark, widening pool. His suit was soaked through the abdomen, his breathing uneven, sharp, like each inhale might be his last. One hand twitched uselessly against the concrete. Another gunshot rang out above them, somewhere near the exit ramp. She ducked behind a pillar, heart slamming so violently it hurt. Every part of her knew she shouldn't be here. This wasn't her world. This wasn't her problem. In Lowe's Angels, minding your business was survival. Before we continue, comment below, would you have walked away or stopped to save him? Hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because this story proves how one moment of kindness can destroy or save an entire life. Then the man groaned. It wasn't loud, barely a sound at all, but it sliced through her panic like a blade. She peeked out again. He was young, mid-30s maybe, but power clung to him even while he bled. His jaw was clenched, teeth bared against the pain, dark hair plastered to his forehead with sweat. His eyes were open now, sharp and alert despite the wound, scanning the shadows. He saw her. Their gazes locked. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. Then his lips parted, and in a rough, breathless voice, he said, "Help me." She swallowed. "Please," he added, the word strained, like it cost him something to say it. Footsteps thundered somewhere above them, shouting. The chaos was moving closer, not farther away. She should leave. She knew that. Every story she'd ever heard about wrong place, wrong time ended the same way. Dead witnesses, no good deeds. But her hands were already shaking with muscle memory. She crouched beside him. "I need you to stay awake," she said quickly, pressing her palm against the wound through his suit jacket. Warm blood soaked her skin instantly. "Can you do that?" His eyes flicked down to her hands, then back to her face. Surprise flashed across his expression, sharp, brief. His breath hitched. "You're not scared." "I am," she said, voice tight. "I'm just not leaving." She ripped open her bag with trembling fingers, yanking out a scarf and pressing it hard against his abdomen. "Where were you hit?" He sucked in a breath, sighed, lower. "Good," she said, though she wasn't sure if it was. "That's better than higher." "Is it?" His lips curved faintly, almost amused, then his face tightened again as pain ripped through him. "Don't move," she snapped. "You move, you bleed faster." She could hear men shouting now, voices echoing down the ramps. Korean, angry, urgent. His eyes darkened. "You need to go." "I'm not finished," she said. He grabbed her wrist suddenly, fingers slick with blood but strong. Too strong for a man who was supposed to be dying. "They'll kill you." "Then stop talking," she shot back, tugging free. "You're losing blood." She pressed harder, wincing when he groaned. "What's your name?" He hesitated. "Don't bother," he said finally. "It won't matter." "It matters if I'm talking to a corpse," she replied. "Stay with me." Sirens wailed in the distance. His gaze snapped toward the sound. Fear flickered across his face, real fear, the kind she hadn't expected to see on someone like him. "Police," he muttered. "They can't find me like this." "They're not here yet," she said. "And if you bleed out before they arrive, that won't help you either." Boots pounded down the ramp. He cursed under his breath. "You don't understand." "I understand you're bleeding to death," she said. "Lift your arm." He hesitated, then obeyed. She shoved the scarf deeper, tying it tight, her fingers moving fast, practiced. She'd done this before too many times. Accidents, street violence, lives falling apart in her hands. His breathing steadied slightly. "Who are you?" he asked. Someone who shouldn't be here, she said. Someone who's about to lie to the police for you if that's what it takes. His eyes widened just a fraction. Why? She paused. I don't know, she admitted. Maybe because no one deserves to die alone on concrete. The footsteps grew louder. Shouts echoed closer. She stood, heart racing, blood staining her clothes. She wiped her hands on her jeans and took a step back. Listen to me, she said urgently. If anyone asks, you were shot in a robbery. You don't know who did it. You don't know why. Understand? He stared up at her, searching her face. You're serious, he said quietly. Yes. Why would you do that for me? She swallowed hard. Because I already started. The first officer rounded the corner. What's going on here? He shouted, hand on his gun. She raised her hands immediately. He's been shot. I heard it and came running. The officer rushed forward, eyes flicking over the scene. Who did this? She forced her voice to stay steady. I didn't see them. I heard gunshots, then found him like this. The man on the ground stayed silent. The officer called for backup, for an ambulance. More sirens screamed closer. As paramedics rushed in, the officer pulled her aside. Ma'am, do you know him? She shook her head. No, never seen him before. She felt his gaze on her even as they lifted him onto the stretcher. When she finally looked back, his dark eyes were locked on her face, intense, unreadable. Something passed between them then, something heavy. He didn't say thank you. He didn't say goodbye. He just watched her. And in that moment, standing in a blood-stained parking garage, sirens screaming, heart pounding, she had no idea she had just altered the course of both their lives forever. The hospital room was quiet in the way places became when danger had passed, but consequences had not yet arrived. Machines beeped softly. The smell of antiseptic hung in the air. Outside the narrow window, Lowe's angels glowed indifferent, traffic still moving, lives still unfolding. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying her face in his mind with unsettling clarity. Not fear, not desperation. Resolve. Most people begged when they realized who he was. Most trembled. Most tried to take advantage, to bargain, to attach themselves to his power like parasites. She had done none of that. She had pressed her hands into his wound and told him to stay awake. A man in a dark suit stepped quietly into the room and closed the door behind him. You shouldn't be alive, the man said. He turned his head slightly, and yet. There were 3 shooters, the man continued. 2 are dead, 1 escaped. His jaw tightened. Find him. We will. The police bought the robbery story. Good. A pause. What about the woman? His eyes flicked toward the window. What about her? She gave the statement. She's clean. No criminal record. No known affiliations. Works multiple low-wage jobs. Lives in a 1-bedroom apartment south of downtown. Silence stretched. She could be a risk, the man said carefully. Loose ends. She saved my life, he said. The man hesitated. That doesn't change protocol. It changes everything, he replied calmly. No one touches her. The man's brows furrowed. Sir. She is not to be followed, threatened, questioned, or harmed, he said, voice flat but final. If anyone even thinks about it, I'll know. The man nodded slowly. As you wish. When he was alone again, he closed his eyes. He remembered the way she'd pressed the scarf into his wound without hesitation. The way she'd met his gaze while lying to the police. The way she'd walked away without looking back. No one walked away from him. He opened his eyes. Find her, he said softly to the empty room, but don't let her know. She scrubbed her hands raw in the sink, blood still clinging to her skin, no matter how hard she rubbed. The image wouldn't leave her head. The sound of the gunshot, his voice asking for help, the way his eyes had followed her as they wheeled him away. She shut off the water and leaned against the counter, breathing hard. You're alive, she whispered to herself. You're fine, you did the right thing. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She flinched. A message from her landlord. Rent overdue. Final notice. She laughed weakly. Of course. Life didn't pause just because she'd saved someone from dying. She changed out of her blood-stained clothes, stuffed them deep into a trash bag, and tied it tight. She couldn't risk keeping them. Not here. That night, she barely slept. Every sound outside her apartment made her tense. Every shadow looked wrong. Her mind replayed every second in the garage, over and over, searching for mistakes. By morning, exhaustion weighed heavy in her bones. She dragged herself to work. By noon, something strange happened. Her manager called her into the office, eyes wide, confused. "Your balance was paid this morning," he said. "Your outstanding fees, all of them." She stared at him. "What?" "It's cleared," he said. "I don't know how, but you're good." She left the office numb. On her break, she checked her bank account. There it was. A deposit large enough to wipe out her debts. No sender name, no explanation. Her chest tightened. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." That evening, she returned home to find a notice taped to her door. Eviction withdrawn. Her knees almost buckled. She pressed her back against the wall, heart racing. Coincidences didn't stack like this, not in her world. She scanned the street. Nothing unusual, just people passing by, unaware that her entire reality was tilting off its axis. That night, she dreamed of dark eyes watching her from the shadows. He stood behind the glass wall of his penthouse. The city stretched out beneath him like a living map. "She hasn't reacted," the man beside him reported. "No calls to the police, no sudden changes." "She will," he said, "eventually. You've already paid her debts." "I removed obstacles," he corrected. "There's a difference." "This level of attention is mine to give," he interrupted. The man hesitated. "What do you want from her?" He watched the traffic flow far below. "I want to understand why she stayed." She felt it 2 days later. That sensation people talked about when they said they were being watched. At first, she dismissed it. Stress, paranoia. Then she noticed patterns. The same black car parked across the street twice in 1 week. The same man at the bus stop who never boarded. The way strangers seemed to glance her way a second too long. Her chest tightened. She changed routes, took different buses, walked longer distances. The feeling followed. One evening, she stopped abruptly on a busy sidewalk and turned. The man who had been behind her nearly collided with her. "Sorry," he muttered, startled. She searched his face. Nothing familiar, nothing threatening. She continued walking, heart pounding. That night, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She stared at the screen for a long moment before answering. "Hello." Silence. Then a familiar voice, low and calm. "You shouldn't walk alone at night." Her breath caught. She knew that voice. "You," she whispered. "Yes." Her hand trembled. "How did you get this number?" "I asked." "Why are you calling me?" A pause. "To say thank you." Her pulse thundered in her ears. "You don't get to thank me, not like this. You saved my life." "I didn't do it for you," she snapped. "I did it because it was right." "Then why do you sound afraid?" "Because people like you don't just say thank you," she said. "They collect." Silence stretched between them. "I don't collect debts from people who act without expecting payment," he said quietly. "I protect them." "I don't want your protection," she said. "That," he replied, "is not always a choice." Her stomach dropped. "Leave me alone," she said. "Please." He exhaled slowly. "I will for now." The line went dead. She stood there in her dark apartment, phone pressed to her ear, heart racing. She didn't know it yet, but that phone call had sealed something irreversible. Because he had never lied to her. And protection, in his world, came at a cost. She stopped answering unknown numbers after that. For 3 days, her phone stayed silent. And for 3 days, she tried to convince herself that the call had been a mistake, some strange aftershock of adrenaline, coincidence stacked on coincidence. She forced herself back into routine. Work, commute, sleep, repeat. But the sense of pressure didn't fade. It grew. On the fourth night, the pressure turned into fear. She was halfway down the block from her apartment when she heard footsteps behind her, too fast, too close. Her body reacted before her mind could catch up. She turned sharply, keys clenched between her fingers. Two men stood there. They weren't trying to hide. Both wore dark jackets despite the heat, their faces blank in a way that immediately set her nerves screaming. One of them smiled, slow and wrong. "You walk alone a lot," he said. Her pulse spiked. "Move." The other man stepped closer. "You don't remember us." "I don't know you," she said, backing away. "Funny," the first man replied, "because our boss knows you very well." Her stomach dropped. She turned to run. They grabbed her. She screamed, elbowing one in the ribs, but a hand clamped over her mouth, dragging her toward a van parked at the curb. Panic tore through her chest as she kicked and thrashed, the world blurring with terror. Then gunshots cracked through the air. The men froze. One of them collapsed instantly, blood spraying across the pavement. The other barely had time to turn before another shot dropped him to his knees. She stumbled back, gasping, staring in disbelief. A black sedan rolled to a stop beside her. The door opened. He stepped out. He looked nothing like the man she'd seen bleeding on the garage floor. His suit was immaculate, posture relaxed, expression cold in a way that made the night itself seem smaller. His eyes flicked briefly to the bodies on the ground, then settled on her. "You shouldn't scream," he said calmly. "It draws attention." Her legs shook. You followed me." "Yes." "You said you'd leave me alone." "I said for now," he replied. "Now has passed." She laughed once, sharp and hysterical. "They were going to kidnap me." "Yes." "And you're just okay with that?" "No," he said. "That's why they're dead." She stared at him, horror and fury crashing together inside her. "You can't just kill people." "They already decided to kill you," he replied evenly. "I simply acted faster." Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. He gestured toward the car. "Get in." "No," she said immediately. "You don't have a choice." She took a step back. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for you." "And yet," he said softly, "you're standing here alive because of me." Her throat burned. "I don't want to owe you." "You don't," he said. "You belong under my protection now." "I don't belong to anyone." He studied her for a long moment. "You saved my life," he said. "That made you visible. In my world, visibility is dangerous." She shook her head. "Then undo it. Let me disappear." "I can't," he replied. "Others already know." The sirens were closer now. "Get in the car," he said again, his voice leaving no room for argument. "Or stay here and explain two bodies to the police." Her chest heaved. She looked down at the blood pooling on the pavement, then back at him. Slowly, shaking, she got into the car. The door closed with a final, heavy thud. As the car pulled away, she pressed herself against the seat, arms wrapped around her body. "You don't get to decide my life," she said quietly. "I don't decide," he replied. "I prevent endings." She turned to him, eyes blazing. "You think killing people is preventing endings?" "I think letting you die would have been the greater failure," he said. She laughed bitterly. "You don't even know me." "That," he said, "is what bothers me." The apartment he brought her to wasn't a prison. That was what unsettled her the most. It was spacious, modern, high above the city. No bars on the windows, no locks on the inside. The fridge was stocked. Clean clothes waited folded neatly on the bed. "This is temporary," he said, "until things settle." "I'm not staying," she said. "You are," he replied, "because if you leave, they will try again." "Who is they?" "People who believe hurting you hurts me." She crossed her arms. "And does it?" His eyes held hers. "Yes." The admission sent a chill down her spine. "You barely know me," she repeated. "I know you didn't run," he said. "I know you lied to the police. I know you didn't ask for anything in return. That doesn't mean I belong here." "No," he agreed. "It means you matter." The word landed heavier than any threat. That night, she barely slept. The city lights glowed outside the windows, beautiful and distant. Every sound made her flinch. Every thought spiraled. By morning, anger replaced fear. She found him in the living room, already dressed, sipping coffee like this was a business meeting instead of a hostage situation. "You can't keep me here," she said. "I'm not keeping you," he replied. "I'm shielding you. From the mess you created." "From the mess you stepped into," he corrected. She slammed her hand on the table. "I saved your life. That doesn't give you the right to own mine." He didn't flinch. "In my world, nothing is free." "Then maybe your world is broken." A flicker of something passed through his eyes. Not anger, something closer to pain. "Perhaps," he said quietly, "but it is the only one I have." They stared at each other, tension thick in the air. She realized then that he wasn't trying to cage her. He was trying to keep something fragile from being destroyed. And that realization terrified her more than the guns ever could. Because it meant he wasn't letting go. By the third day, the apartment stopped feeling like a refuge and started feeling like a test. She paced the living room, bare feet sinking into the plush rug, hands clenched and unclenched as if she could shake the tension out of her body. Outside, the city moved on. People laughed on balconies. Cars honked. Life went on without her. He watched her from across the room, seated calmly, one ankle resting on his knee. He never told her not to pace, never told her to sit, never raised his voice. That made it worse. "You don't even lock the door," she said finally, gesturing toward the hallway. "If this is protection, you're doing a bad job." "The building is secured," he replied. "No one gets past the lobby without my permission." "So I'm safe," she said, bitter. "As long as I stay exactly where you want me." "As long as you stay alive," he corrected. She stopped packing and faced him. "What do you actually want from me?" He studied her, as if weighing the cost of honesty. "I want you to stop thinking of me as your enemy. That's hard when you decide who lives and who dies." "I decide who threatens what I protect." She scoffed. "And you decided I'm something you protect." "Yes." "Why?" she demanded. "Say it." He didn't answer immediately. His gaze drifted toward the window, the skyline washed in afternoon light. "Because when you saw me bleeding," he said slowly, "you didn't see power, you didn't see fear. You saw a man dying." Her throat tightened. "That doesn't make me special." "It makes you rare," he said. She shook her head. "You're projecting." "Perhaps," he allowed, "but projection doesn't change outcomes." She laughed without humor. "You sound like you're trying to convince yourself." "Maybe I am," he said quietly. The honesty unsettled her more than any threat could have. A knock sounded at the door. She stiffened instantly. "Who is that?" He rose smoothly. "Someone who needs to speak to me." "I don't want to meet your people." "You won't," he said. "Stay here." She watched him disappear down the hallway, heart racing. Voices murmured beyond the door, low, urgent. She caught fragments. Korean. Tension. When he returned, his expression was darker. "What?" she asked. "They've traced the shooter," he said. "He's part of a rival group. And they know about you." Her stomach dropped. "How?" "They believe your leverage." She swallowed hard. "So what now?" "Now," he said, "you become invisible." They moved her that night. No warning, no argument, just quiet efficiency. She was escorted through underground corridors into a vehicle with tinted windows. She didn't see the city this time, just darkness and the reflection of her own face, pale and tight with fear. "Where are you taking me?" she asked. "Somewhere safer," he replied. "Safer than this?" "Yes." "Safer for who?" she pressed. He didn't answer. The new place was smaller but more fortified. Guards outside, cameras, no windows she could open. "This is worse," she said immediately. "This is a cage." "It's temporary," he replied. "You keep saying that. And you keep surviving," he said, "which suggests I'm doing something right." She turned on him. "You don't get to decide what surviving looks like for me." "Neither did the men who tried to drag you into a van," he shot back. The words hit hard. She fell silent. That night, she dreamed of the parking garage again. But this time, when she knelt beside him, her hands were covered in blood she couldn't wash away. The next morning, she overheard the argument. She hadn't meant to. She was walking past the office when raised voices stopped her cold. "She's the problem," a man snapped. "She's the weakness." "She's the reason you're breathing," he replied. "You're risking everything for her." "I'm controlling the risk." "This isn't control," the man said. "This is obsession." There was a long pause. When he spoke again, his voice was dangerously calm. "Say that word again." Silence. She backed away slowly, heart pounding. Weakness. The word echoed in her head all day. By evening, she knew one thing for certain. She couldn't stay passive. She waited until he came to check on her, leaning against the doorframe like he always did, composed, unreadable. "We need to talk," she said. He nodded. "We always do." She took a breath. "Your people think I'm your weakness." "They're wrong." "Are they?" she asked. "Because they're already planning around me. They're already making decisions about me." He studied her carefully. "What are you asking?" "I want to leave," she said. "But not like before. I want terms." His brow lifted slightly. "Terms?" "Yes," she said, forcing her voice steady. "You want to protect me? Fine, then do it my way." "Explain." "I won't disappear," she said. "That makes me a target. I want my family safe. I want my job untouched. I want to be able to walk outside without armed shadows trailing me." "And in return?" he asked. She met his gaze. "I stay visible, to you." Something shifted in the room. "You're proposing leverage," he said. "I'm proposing balance," she replied. "You're powerful, I'm not, but you care, that's your blind spot." A slow smile tugged at his lips. "You're dangerous." She shrugged. "I learned from watching you." They stared at each other, a new tension threading the air. Not fear, not anger, but something sharper. "Respect." "I'll consider it," he said finally. "You'll agree," she said quietly. "Because if you don't, your people will act, and you'll lose control." Silence stretched. Then he laughed, low and surprised. "You're right." Her pulse jumped. "I'll agree," he said, "on one condition." She braced herself. "What?" "You stop pretending you're just a bystander in my world." She frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said softly, "you start understanding it." She hesitated. "I don't want your blood on my hands." "You already have it," he replied gently. "You just haven't admitted it yet." That night, as she lay awake staring at the ceiling, she realized something chilling. She hadn't escaped his world. She had stepped into it. And the door was closing behind her. The first rule he gave her was simple. "Don't lie to me," he said. They were seated across from each other at the long dining table in the fortified apartment. It felt less like a home and more like a command center, screens muted on the walls, phones lined up like weapons, guards moving in silent patterns outside the glass. "I don't lie," she replied. He tilted his head slightly. "You lied to the police." "I lied to save a life," she shot back. "There's a difference." A faint smile touched his mouth. "Exactly." That unsettled her. Over the next few days, he kept his word. Her family was quietly relocated. No explanations, no threats, just sudden job transfers, rent assistance, safety that felt too clean to be coincidence. Her employer confirmed her position was secure. Her schedule returned to normal. But her own life did not. He didn't chain her, didn't lock her in, Instead, he invited her to observe. "Watch," he said one evening, standing beside her as a screen flickered to life. "If you want freedom, you need awareness." She stared at the footage, maps, names, financial flows. Men arguing in rooms she didn't recognize. Decisions being made that ended lives without anyone raising their voice. "This is insane," she whispered. "This is order," he corrected. "Without it, chaos would swallow everything." "People died because of you," she said. "Yes," he replied calmly, "and people lived." She turned to him, anger flaring. "You think that balances the scale?" "No," he said. "I think pretending there is a scale is the lie people tell themselves." She recoiled slightly, shaken by the honesty. At night, when the city quieted, she found herself asking questions she hadn't meant to. "How did you become this?" she asked once. He was silent for a long time. "I was taught," he said finally, "by men who believed mercy was weakness." "And you believe that?" "I believed it," he said, "until you knelt on concrete and refused to leave me." Her breath caught. "That moment broke something," he continued, "or revealed something already broken." She didn't know what to say to that. Days passed, then weeks. She noticed the change before anyone said it aloud. He listened to her. Not always, not completely, but when she spoke, decisions slowed. Executions were postponed. Alternatives were discussed. The men noticed. They always noticed. "You're changing him," one of them said to her in passing, his voice low and sharp. "That makes you dangerous." "Good," she replied, surprising herself. The threat came at dawn. Gunfire shattered the silence, alarms blaring through the apartment. She bolted upright in bed, heart slamming. He was at her door in seconds. "Stay here." "I'm not hiding," she said, grabbing her shoes. "You will if you want to live," he snapped. The building shook with explosions below. "They're inside," she said. "Yes," he replied, "which means they chose today." She followed him anyway. Smoke filled the corridors. Shouts echoed in Korean, English, languages she couldn't place. She pressed herself against the wall as bullets tore through glass. He moved like this was familiar territory, calm, efficient, lethal. Orders snapped from his mouth, men responding instantly. Then she saw it. One of his own men, standing too close behind her. A gun raised. "Stop," she shouted. Too late. The shot rang out. Pain exploded across her side as she fell hard against the wall. The world tilted, sound warping. He turned at the sound of her scream. Time fractured. He crossed the distance between them in seconds, catching her as her legs gave out. Blood soaked his hands, her blood. "No," he breathed. "No, no." She gasped, clutching his jacket. "It's not deep." His face was pale with a fury she'd never seen. He shouted orders, voice shaking with barely restrained violence. The traitor tried to run. He didn't make it 3 steps. She barely registered the gunshots, barely registered anything except the way his hands trembled as he pressed them against her wound. "Stay awake," he said, voice breaking. "Do not close your eyes." She laughed weakly. "You sound familiar." His jaw clenched. "I will burn this city if you die." "Don't," she whispered. "Don't do that for me." "I already have," he said. They stabilized her before she lost consciousness. When she woke, the world was quieter. Different. He sat beside her bed, suit gone, sleeves rolled up, dark circles under his eyes. "You're alive," she murmured. He exhaled shakily. "Yes." "You killed him," she said softly. "Yes." She closed her eyes. "I didn't want that." "I know," he replied. "That's why it had to be me." Silence stretched. "I can't stay," she said finally. "Not like this." He didn't argue. "I know," he said. She opened her eyes. "You're letting me go." "Yes." Her chest tightened. "Why?" "Because keeping you here will destroy me," he said quietly. "And I will not turn you into the thing they think you already are." She searched his face. And you? I'll survive, he said. I always do. She reached out, fingers brushing his wrist. You don't have to be alone. He froze at the touch. That, he said softly, is the problem. The next morning, arrangements were made. No guards, no spectacle, just a car waiting. As she stepped toward it, she hesitated. You were obsessed, she said. You know that, right? He met her gaze. Yes. And now? Now, he said, I choose restraint. She nodded slowly. As the car pulled away, she didn't look back. But from the window of a building that ruled half the city's shadows, he watched until the car disappeared. And for the first time in his life, power felt like loss. The silence after she left was not peaceful. It was hollow. He stood alone in the penthouse long after the car vanished from view, city lights blinking below like nothing had changed. His men waited at a distance, careful, quiet, afraid of saying the wrong thing. They could feel it. The shift. Power was supposed to make things simpler, lighter, but her absence weighed more than any threat ever had. She's gone, one of them said cautiously. Yes, he replied. You did the right thing. He didn't answer. Because doing the right thing had never hurt like this. She tried to disappear. That was the plan. A new neighborhood, a smaller apartment, different routes to work. She told herself she could return to being invisible, that the chaos would eventually forget her. For a while, it almost worked. She went days without looking over her shoulder, nights without waking up drenched in sweat. The city felt ordinary again, too loud, too crowded, too indifferent. Then the messages started. Not from him. From the world he'd pulled her into. A note slipped under her door. No threats, just 4 words written neatly on plain paper. You should have stayed. Her stomach twisted. She burned the note in the sink, hands shaking, and told herself it meant nothing. Fear wanted patterns. Fear invented danger. 2 nights later, she was followed. She noticed the footsteps behind her, steady, deliberate. When she sped up, they sped up. When she crossed the street, they followed. She ducked into a convenience store, heart racing. The man followed her inside. He didn't pretend to shop, didn't speak, just stood by the door, watching her reflection in the freezer glass. She grabbed her phone, fingers trembling, and did the one thing she'd promised herself she wouldn't do. She called him. He answered on the first ring. Where are you? He asked, voice sharp. She swallowed. I shouldn't have called. You should have, he replied. Tell me where you are. She did. Stay inside, he said. I'm coming. I don't want you to. The line went dead. The man by the door smiled faintly, like he knew something she didn't. 10 minutes later, black vehicles flooded the street. The man vanished. She stood frozen as he stepped into the store, expression thunderous, eyes scanning her like he needed to confirm she was real. You said you were letting me go, she said quietly. I said I was choosing restraint, he replied, not abandonment. She hugged herself. They're still coming. Yes, he said, because leaving me didn't make you invisible. It made you unprotected. She met his gaze, anger and fear tangled together. So what now? I come back, live in a fortress, watch people die because of me. No, he said, now we end it. The plan was ruthless. He didn't hide it from her. They believe you're my weakness, he said, so we use that. You're baiting them with me, she said. Yes. Her jaw tightened. You promised not to turn me into this. I promised not to cage you, he replied. This is a choice. She exhaled slowly. And if I say no? Then I will still end it, he said, but you won't be safe until it's done. She thought of the man in the store, the note, the creeping sense that her life would never fully belong to her again. I won't let you do this alone, she said. His eyes flicked to her sharp. You don't know what you're asking. I know exactly what I'm asking, she replied. I won't be your weakness, I'll be your line. For a long moment, He said nothing. Then he nodded once. Very well. They spread the rumor carefully. That she was back under his protection. That she was more than that. That decisions now passed through her. The reaction was immediate. Enemies surfaced. Allies tested boundaries. Traitors whispered in corners. She watched it all unfold from the center of a world she'd never wanted, but now refused to be crushed by. "This is what power feels like," she said one night, staring at the screens. "Yes," he replied, "lonely." She glanced at him. "You don't have to be." He didn't answer. The final strike came sooner than expected. A meeting arranged under the pretense of negotiation. A warehouse by the docks. Too many exits, too many blind spots. She knew it was a trap. So did he. They went anyway. Gunfire erupted within seconds. Chaos exploded through the space, shouts, bullets, bodies falling. She stayed close to him, heart pounding but mind clear. A man lunged for her. She didn't scream. She stepped aside, grabbing the gun he dropped, her hands steady in a way that surprised even her. She didn't fire. She aimed. "Drop it," she said. The man froze. He looked at her, recognition dawning. "You're the reason he's weak." She smiled grimly. "You misunderstand." She stepped back, giving him a clear shot. He took it. The man fell. She exhaled slowly, knees trembling. He was beside her instantly. "Are you hurt?" "No," she said, "but it's over." It was. By morning, the rival network was dismantled, leaders dead or captured, the whispers silenced. The city exhaled. They stood together as the sun rose over the water, exhaustion etched into both their faces. "You changed everything," he said. "So did you," she replied. "You could stay," he said quietly. "Help rebuild something different." She considered it. Then she shook her head. "If I stay, I'll become you. And if you leave, I'll finally belong to myself." He nodded slowly. "I won't follow." "I know," she said. "That's why this works." She turned away before either of them could change their minds. As she walked toward the car, she felt it again. Not fear this time, but clarity. She had saved a man once. This time, she had saved herself. And behind her, the most powerful man in the city learned what it meant to let go. She didn't leave the city immediately. That surprised her. For 2 weeks after the docks, she stayed exactly where she was, same apartment, same job, same routines. Part of it was stubbornness, part of it was exhaustion, and part of it was a quiet need to prove something to herself. That she could exist without running. Word spread fast in the underworld. It always did. The rival network was gone. The whispers stopped. No more notes. No more shadows following her home. For the first time since the parking garage, her life felt normal. Too normal. She caught herself expecting him to call, expecting his presence the way one expects a storm after dark clouds gather. But days passed, then weeks. He kept his word. That, more than anything, stayed with her. One evening, as she sat on her fire escape watching the city glow orange under the setting sun, her phone buzzed. A message, unknown number. "You're safe now." Her chest tightened. She stared at the screen for a long time before typing back. "I know." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. "You were never my weakness." She let out a slow breath. "I know that too," she typed. "That's why I had to leave." This time, the reply came quickly. "You were my mirror." Her throat closed. She locked her phone and pressed it to her chest, blinking back tears she hadn't allowed herself since everything began. Across the city, he sat alone in the penthouse that no longer felt like a throne. The empire still stood. The money still flowed. His name still carried weight that made men straighten their backs and lower their eyes. But something fundamental had shifted. For the first time, decisions felt heavier. Each order echoed longer in his mind. Each consequence lingered. He found himself asking questions he'd never asked before. Is there another way? The men noticed. They always did. You're hesitating, one of them said during a meeting. Yes, he replied. That's dangerous. So is certainty, he said calmly. They fell silent. Later that night, he stood by the window, city lights reflecting in the glass. He replayed the moment she'd aimed a gun without firing, the steadiness in her hands, the clarity in her eyes. She hadn't become him. She forced him to become something else. And that terrified him, because it meant he could never go back. She eventually moved. Not far, just enough. A quieter neighborhood, more trees, fewer sirens. She took a job at a small clinic, her hands once again doing what they were meant to, healing instead of reacting. Patients loved her, trusted her. They didn't know what she'd survived. Sometimes, late at night, she wondered what would have happened if she'd stayed, if she'd accepted the power he offered, if she'd ruled beside him instead of walking away. The answer always came the same way. She would have lost herself, and she'd fought too hard not to. Their worlds drifted apart, but the thread between them never fully snapped. Once, months later, she saw his face on the news. Not his name, never his name, but a photo from a distance. A powerful figure stepping out of a courthouse, flanked by lawyers. The headline talked about investigations, about change, about cracks in systems long thought untouchable. She smiled faintly. He was evolving, and so was she. The last time they spoke was a year after the garage. She was closing the clinic when her phone rang. This time, it wasn't an unknown number. You don't usually call, she said. Neither do you, he replied. Silence settled comfortably between them. I'm leaving the city, he said finally. Her breath caught, for good. Yes. She leaned against the counter. I'm glad. So am I, he said. It's time. For what? For consequences, he replied, and for something resembling peace. She smiled softly. I hope you find it. I already did, he said. I just didn't recognize it at the time. Another pause. Do you regret saving me? He asked. She didn't answer immediately. She thought of the blood on her hands, the fear, the power, the way her life had split into before and after. No, she said, but I don't think I'd do it again. He chuckled quietly. That's fair. I hope, she added, you never need saving again. I hope, he said, that no one ever mistakes your kindness for weakness again. She closed her eyes. Goodbye. Goodbye, he echoed. The line went dead. Years later, when the story became a rumor told in fragments, people got it wrong. They said a mafia boss fell in love with a woman who saved him. They said obsession destroyed him. They said power corrupted her. The truth was quieter. A woman chose compassion in a moment that mattered. A man learned restraint from the one thing he couldn't control. And somewhere between violence and mercy, both of them walked away changed, alive, scarred, but free in ways neither had ever been before. She never became his queen. He never owned her soul. But for one night in a parking garage, their lives collided. And neither of them ever truly escaped the echo of that choice. The city never remembered moments like that parking garage. Concrete got washed, blood faded, people forgot. But she didn't. Sometimes, when the night was quiet and the air smelled like rain, she'd pause mid-step and feel it again. The weight of a choice made in seconds, the way one decision could split a life clean in two. She would touch the faint scar at her side and remind herself she was still here, still whole, still free. Somewhere far away, a man who once ruled shadows learned how to live without them. Not forgiven, not redeemed, just changed. He carried restraint like a wound that never healed, and maybe that was the point. They never met again. They didn't need to. What bound them wasn't love or ownership or obsession in the way the world liked to frame it. It was consequence. It was the echo of kindness offered in a place where cruelty was expected. She saved him once. After that, she saved herself. And if anyone ever asked what really happened, if a black woman saved a Korean mafia boss and became the center of his world, the truth was simpler and far more dangerous. She reminded a powerful man that mercy exists. And she walked away before it could cost her everything.